My name is David, and I recently moved into a semi advanced neighborhood, leaving behind the chaos of the city for a quieter, more tranquil life. It felt good to finally have my own space, a modest house, complete with a little front yard and a shiny black car that gleamed in the sunlight. On the day I arrived, as I carried the last of my luggage into the house, I noticed a woman standing across the house. She was tall and slim, her face partially obscured by a wide brimmed hat. She stood oddly still, her eyes fixed on me like I was some sort of a specimen. Good afternoon, I called her, waving my hand. She didn't respond. Hello, I tried again. My voice louder this time. No reaction. She just stood there staring at me with those unblinking eyes. A chill crept up my spine, but I forced a smile and muttered under my breath, "Weird," before heading inside. Later that evening, as I unpacked, I glanced out the window. She was still there, standing in the same spot, her gaze unwavering. The next morning, I woke up early, eager to start my day. As the sun rose, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, I opened the curtains to let in the light, and there she was. This time, she was seated on a wooden bench near her house, still staring in my direction. I sighed. Maybe she's just curious, I thought. For days, this behavior continued. Every morning, when I opened my curtains, I would see her in the distance. Every evening, she would appear again, always staring. One morning, I couldn't take it anymore. I marched out, determined to confront her. "Excuse me," as I shouted as I approached her. "Do you need something? Why do you keep staring at me?" She didn't answer. Instead, she slowly raised her hand and pointed her finger at me. Her face was void of expression. Then she snapped her fingers sharply, turned around, and walked away without a word. The silence of the night was deafening as I stood there staring at the empty clothesline. My heart and my mind was clouded with confusion and fear. Where are my clothes? Who could have taken them? And what about the bloodstain I had seen? I shined my flashlight across the yard again, hoping I had missed something, but the rope was bare. Reluctantly, I went back inside, locked all the doors, and returned to bed. But sleep didn't come as I tossed and turned, my thought plagued by the bizarre event of the day. When I finally drifted off, the dream came again. I was standing in a dim lit room surrounded by shadows. The air was heavy, suffocating. Suddenly, she appeared, a woman from across the street. She was wearing my clothes. "You!" I shouted, my voice echoing in the empty space. "What do you want from me?" She didn't answer. Instead, she smiled. A wild, unsettling grin that made my blood run cold. "Stop this," I yelled, trying to move closer. But my feet wouldn't budge. It was as if I was rooted to the ground. She began to laugh, a soft, airy sound that grew louder and louder until it was deafening. I covered my ears, desperate to escape the sound. I woke up, gasping for air, my body drenched in sweat. The laughter still echoed in my ears as I sat up, trying to calm my racing heart. It was a dream, I told myself, but deep down I knew it was more than that. I got out of bed and walked to the window, drawn by a strange compulsion. I pulled back the curtains, and there she was. A woman stood in the dim light of the street lamp wearing my clothes. She was smiling in that same unsettling smile from my dream. "Enough is enough," I muttered, grabbing my jacket and heading for the door. I stepped outside, the cold night air biting my skin. "Hey," I called out, my voice cutting through the silence. She didn't move. "Who are you? What do you want?" I demanded as I approached her. But before I could reach her, she turned and walked away, disappearing into the shadows. When I reached the spot where she had been standing, there was nothing but silence, no footprint, no trace of her presence. Frustrated, I turned back towards the house, and then I saw it. The clothesline. My clothes were there, hanging neatly as if they had never been missing. I hesitated, a cold dread settling over me, but exhaustion and frustration clouded my judgment. I walked over to the line, inspecting the clothes. They looked clean, untouched. "This is ridiculous," I muttered, pulling them down. The next morning, I got dressed, trying to shake off the events of the night. I chose one of the shirts from the line, a simple white t-shirt, and put it on. The moment the fabric touched my skin, I froze. A sharp pain shot through my body as if needles were piercing every inch of my skin. I gasped, clutching at the shirt, but it felt like it was glued to me. What's happening? I whispered, panic rising in my chest. I ran to the mirror and what I saw made my stomach drop. My skin was turning dark like charred wood, and cracks were spreading across it like a spider web. No, no, I murmured, clawing at the shirt, desperate to remove it, but it wouldn't budge. The pain intensified, searing through my body as if I fell to my knees. My vision blurred, and a cold sweat drenched my face. I could hear laughter, soft at first, then growing louder. Her laughter. I looked up at the mirror again, and for a moment, I thought I saw a reflection instead of me. The shock of my mother's word lingered long after the call ended. I couldn't shake the fear that settled deep in my chest. Her crypt warning replied in my mind over and over. She's been waiting for you. 3 agonizing days passed. My skin has darkened even more, the cracks spreading like a disease. An unbearable smell clung to me, and my body had begun to sweat slightly. I tried everything to clean myself, but nothing worked. I couldn't leave the house. I was too ashamed, too afraid. On the third day, I finally heard the sound of a car pulling into my driveway. My mother had arrived. I opened the door and saw her standing there, her face etched with worry. She stepped inside and immediately froze, staring at me. David, she whispered, her voice trembling. Oh no, it's already started. What's already started, Mom? I demanded, my frustration boiling over. You need to explain what's going on. She sighed. Please, let's sit down first. We moved to the sitting room and I recounted everything that happened in detail. I told her about the woman, the missing clothes, the dreams, and the transformation of my skin. When I finished, she leaned back in her seat and closed her eyes, as if summoning the courage to speak. David, she began slowly, her voice heavy with guilt. There is something I've never told you, something I hoped you'll never have to know. I leaned forward, my heart racing. What is it, Mom? She opened her eyes and looked directly at me. Before you were born, your father and I struggled to have children. For years, we tried, but nothing worked. I was desperate, David, desperate to be a mother. I listened to her in silence, sensing the story was about to take a dark turn. One day, she continued, I went to see a native doctor. He was well known in our village for his abilities. I begged him to help me have a child. What did he do? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He told me he could help. She said, her voice breaking, but there was a condition. He said that once the child turns 30, he will belong to someone else. Belong to someone else, I repeated, horrified. She nodded, tears streaming down her eyes. He said you would be married to a dead spirit. The words hit me like a sledgehammer. I stood up abruptly, facing the room. Married to a dead spirit? Are you serious, Mom? I didn't know what else to do, she cried. Her voice shaking. I didn't know it would actually happen. I thought it was just a sarcastic tactic. And you were my miracle, David. I couldn't say no. I turned to face her, my anger bubbling in the surface. So you sold me to some spirit. You made a deal without even thinking about what it would mean for me. I am sorry, she whispered, her head bowed. Sorry doesn't fix things, I shouted, slamming my hand on the table. Look at me, my skin is cracking, I'm swelling up, and I smell like death. What am I supposed to do now? She wiped her tears and stood up. There is one thing we can try. We need to go back to where it all began, to the shrine. Maybe the native daughter left something behind, a way to reverse it. I hesitated, my anger wavering at my desperation. Finally, I nodded, fine, let's go tomorrow, but this better work. The next morning, we set out early. When we arrived, the village was just as she had described. We entered a discreet hut. It was covered in moss and vines. This is it, my mother said, stopping in front of the entrance. I stared at the shrine, my heart pounding. So what now? We'll go inside and see if there's anything left. The interior was dark. When I began searching the room, her movement frantic. He must have left something, she murmured, a book, a charm, or anything. But as we searched, an elderly man appeared at the door. She wore a tattered shawl and carried a walking stick. Who are you? My mother asked curiously. I am the caretaker of this place, the woman replied. What do you want? We need to see the native doctor, my mother said. It's about a day I made with him years ago. The woman shook her head. He's gone. Gone to where? I asked. He passed away years ago, the woman said. There is nothing left for you here. My heart sank. What are we supposed to do now? The woman's eyes narrowed as she looked at me. You should leave. Some deeds can never be undone. As we walked away from the shrine, I couldn't help but feel that our last hope had slipped through our fingers. I couldn't give up now, so I suggested to my mom to find another native doctor, which she agreed. We walked and searched for another native doctor. His shrine was small and dimly lit, with the faint smell of burning hairs filling the air. He was an elderly man with piercing eyes that seemed to see right through me. He motioned for us to sit on the woven mats spread across the floor. What brings you here? He asked. I hesitated, but my mom spoke. My son, he's been cursed. We need your help. The native doctor studied me for a long moment. This is not ordinary curse, he said. It's tied to a deal made long ago. Undoing it will not be easy. Can it be undone? I asked urgently. He nodded. So there's a way, but it will be painful. Are you prepared for it? I glanced at my mother, who gave me a small nod. I said, yes, firmly, I'll do whatever it takes. The native doctor stood and walked over to a shelf filled with jars and bottles. He carefully measured out a thick, dark liquid into a small calabash and handed it to me. Drink this, he said. I took the calabash, hesitating for a moment. Drink quickly, he said. I pinched my nose and drank it once in a gulp. The taste was worse than I imagined, bitter, earthy, and nauseating. Almost immediately, my body began to shake uncontrollably. My vision blurred and a sharp pain shot through my chest. I doubled over, coughing violently. Blood spattered on the ground as I coughed, my body trembling with every heave. My mother cried out, rushing to my side, but the native doctor stopped her. Stomach hurt as I screamed in pain. Leave him, he said. This is part of the process. And after what felt like eternity, the cough subsided, and I collapsed onto the floor, gasping for air. My body was drenched in sweat, but the sharp pain had faded. You've taken the first step, the native doctor said, handing me a large sealed 5-liter gallon. This contains the same concoction. Use it to bathe tonight. It will help cleanse your body. I nodded weakly, too drained to speak. That night back at home, I prepared the concoction for my bath. The liquid was dark and vicious, and it smelled just as terrible as it has tasted. Standing in the bathroom, I poured it over my body, letting it slip into my skin. As the liquid touched me, I felt a sharp tug on my chest, and before I knew it, the coarse clothes slipped off my body, falling to the ground. I stared at them in disbelief. It worked, I whispered, but when I looked at my skin, my relief turned to disappointment. While the swelling had stopped and the smell was gone, my skin remained dark and cracked, a permanent reminder of the cause. I walked out of the bedroom, wrapping a towel around me. My mother was waiting anxiously. Did it work? She asked. I held up the cursed clothes, my expression somber. They're off me now, I said, but my skin is still the same. Tears swelled up in her eyes. I'm so sorry, David. I wish I could fix this. I sat down beside her, exhausted. At last, the swelling and the smell was gone, I said, but as for her, I haven't seen her since. Maybe that's a good thing, my mother said. Maybe it's the end. I nodded. I woke up the next morning with the shock of my life. My mother was nowhere to be found. There was blood soaked in where she slept, and that was when I remembered. I sat on my bed that night, staring into the darkness. The events of the past weeks played over and over in my mind. My body still bore the scars of the curse. My skin cracked and darkened as a constant reminder, but the quietness, the absence of the woman was unsettling. It was then that her warning came flooding back to me. I remember the night I told my mother everything. That night, I had fallen into a restless sleep, haunted by strange whispers, and in dreams she appeared again. She told me, David. I froze. Why are you doing this to me? I demanded. She tilted her head, smiling. Because you belong to me, she said. Belong to you? I shouted. I never agreed to this. She stepped closer, her figure blurring slightly as she moved. You didn't have to agree, she said. This was decided long before you were born, and now you are my husband. I felt a chill run down my spine. I'm not your husband, I snapped. You are not even alive. Her face darkened, the glow around her fading slightly. Don't you understand, David? She hissed. You can't escape me. If you try to leave me, I will take from you what you love the most. What do you mean? I asked, my voice shaking. She leaned in, her cold breath brushing against my face. If you defy me, you will lose everything. Her voice hung in the air, and suddenly I was back in my room, drenched in sweat. Now, as I sat there recalling her warning, my heart pounded in my chest. My mind raced with questions. What did she mean by lose everything? What did she mean? I buried my face in my hand, trying to push the thought away, but they couldn't just leave me. There on the white sheet was a Bible. I stared at it, unsure of how it got there. Slowly, I reached for it. But as my fingers brushed through the cover, it vanished. The room seemed to shift, the air growing colder, and then, out of nowhere, a piercing scream filled the air. No! The voice was hard, it was filled with rage and pain. I clamped my hands over my ears, but the sound seemed to come from inside my body, and then everything went blank. The scream continued. You can't get away from me. My hands trembled as I gripped the door handle, twisting it with all my strength. Nothing. The door refused to budge. I yanked again, my pulse skyrocketing. Come on, I muttered through gritted teeth. I turned back, scanning the room. There was no one there, but the voice, the presence, was everywhere, consuming me. You belong to me, the voice whispered, sending chills down my spine. I felt a cold breath against my neck. I spun around, my eyes darting frantically. Leave me alone, I screamed, slamming my fist against the door. As if answering my plea, the door creaked open on its own. I stumbled back, my breath uneven. Then I turned to look behind me. My blood ran cold when I saw what it was. The door creaked open slowly, revealing a figure standing in the doorway. My breath caught in my throat as I stared in shock. It was a man dressed in a white robe, holding a Bible close to his chest. His presence radiated peace, yet at the same time I felt a strange tension in the air. His eyes met mine, filled with a knowing concern. Who are you? I stammered, my voice barely above a whisper. I am Pastor Emmanuel. The Holy Spirit led me here. My heart pounded. Lead you here? How? He stepped inside, his eyes scanning the room as if sensing something unseen. The Lord revealed your suffering to me in a vision. There is a great darkness in this place. I swallowed hard. He could feel it too. Please sit down. The doctor nodded and took a seat. Tell me everything, he said. I took a deep breath and said from the beginning. The move into the neighborhood, the strange woman, my terrifying dreams, the cursed clothes, my decaying skin, everything. As I spoke, his face remained calm, but his grip on the Bible tightened. When I finished, silence filled the room. Pastor Emmanuel finally spoke. Her presence is strong here. She does not want to let you go. I shivered. Then what do I do? He reached out into his pocket and pulled out a small bottle filled with a golden liquid. This is anointing oil. You must drink it. I hesitated. Drink? It will cleanse you from within. I took the bottle with shaking hands. The moment it touched my lips, a sharp chill ran down my spine. I tipped the bottle and swallowed. Instantly, my stomach twisted. A cold sensation spread through my body and I gasped, touching my chest. Then I heard it. A scream. Pastor opened his Bible. It has begun. He began reading aloud, his voice unwavering. For we wrestle with not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of the world. The room trembled. I clutched my head as the voice of the woman shrieked in my ears. Stop him, she screamed. Pastor Emmanuel continued, his voice growing louder. The air grew heavier. Then something horrifying happened. The darkened, cracked skin on my body started peeling away. Piece by piece, it fell, landing on the floor like dead leaves. I watched in horror as the patches of rotting flesh gathered together, swaying like ashes in the wind. The pastor intensified his prayer. In the name of Jesus, I command this darkness to leave. The falling piece of my skin moved, merging together into a single mass. It twisted and morphed, forming a black round object, a calabash pot. I gasped, crawling backward. The pot paused with an airy glow, and as I peered inside, I saw her. The woman's face was inside the pot, her black eyes locked onto mine. I'm not done yet, she hissed. My heart pounded. Pastor, she's still here. Pastor Emmanuel didn't waver. He raised his Bible, his voice commanding, "The blood of Jesus is against you." The woman let out an ear-piercing scream, her face distorting in rage. The calabash shook violently, then crack. The pot shattered into pieces. The house fell into silence. "It's over," Pastor said. Tears filled my eyes. I turned to him. "What do you mean for now?" He looked at me solemnly. "Evil does not give up easily." A chill ran down my spine. "Thank you," I said. "Give thanks to God. He is the one who delivered you." I smiled weakly. "I will. Stay strong, David. Keep your faith." As he left, I sat in silence, reflecting on everything. I had survived. The evil woman was gone. I could finally move on. But as I stood up, stretching for the first time without pain, I realized something. I wasn't able to find my mother ever since, and I didn't know if she was still alive or dead. I've come to the end of this story. I hope you did enjoy it. If this is your first time, you're highly, highly welcome. Please invite your friends and your family, and don't forget to hit on my subscribe button and turn on your bell button. For my returning subscribers, a big, big thank you.